Welcome, everybody. It's your boy, the VSW Stoner. We're another exciting episode of VSW Podcast. Today we got a very special guest, the one and only Stephen Person. Welcome.
Thank you. In person, I'd like to add, ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? Thank you for having me. Sorry, I'm a little bit disheveled right now. My normal recording place right now. They're setting up for our podcast later on tonight, and they have to fix some issues that have been happening. So I took refuge in a beautiful place called the Hop Shop here in Staten Island. Definitely check it out on Van Duzer. Great place, great food. They got a little video game place here, pool table, everything you need. And you can rent out the back area for all your needs.
That's pretty sick. I like that. So you're out of the New York area?
Yes, I am. I'm originally and born and raised and living in Staten Island, New York. I've been wrestling for 16 years. Actually, no, I'm sorry, going on 18 in October. And New York City's my hometown. I've been wrestling all over the place. Massachusetts, Connecticut, Boston. Well, not Boston so much. I couldn't do that one. Jersey, Delaware. I wrestle all over the place. I'm actually going down to Columbia. In a week from now, I'll be in Columbia wrestling down there, and also in Long Island and Deer Park for SWA.
Awesome. To be honest, I like that New York scene because you get like a good blend of New York wrestling, Jersey wrestling, and Pennsylvania wrestling. Which a lot of also that area too. Yeah. I live in Mass. I'm from New England, Boston. Close to there. I go up to Maine. I got a lot of wrestling out here. But some of those guys I don't get to see. People like Darius Carter and all those people from that area, they don't get to come up too much.
Carter's a good guy, yeah. Yeah, Carter's a great guy. He's always wrestling around here. He unfortunately just lost the Warriors of Wrestling championship, heavyweight championship to one TG Marconi a couple weeks ago. So the area's mourning.
yes, but yeah, that area, even like I followed someone like Masha Slamwich was out there for a while. A few other
Masha's people. Awesome, yeah. Masha is an incredible talent that's killing it right now on TNA. She is great wrestler. Definitely for greater things coming down the line. She's going to be all over the place one day.
She's one of those people, I saw her in Beyond years ago, Lucky, and she's one of the people that I feel blessed every time she's like on a local show because you never know when she's going to just be contracted and gone for good because she's bound to go somewhere big. But you said
which is don't get me wrong, a big place. Yeah,
you've been doing this a while. What got you into wanting to be a pro wrestler?
It's actually a funny story. I've always been a pro wrestling fan. My dad was a closet pro wrestling fan. I tell the story all the time. I actually caught him one night watching pro wrestling, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And I was maybe about like 4, maybe. And it's like one of my earliest memories is like looking over his chair, and like he didn't know I was there, and I was just like watching all these old Madison Square Garden tapes that he had. So he actually caught me one day watching it, and he was like, "You like this?" Because my mom hated it. My older brother, who's 10 years older than me, hated it. And he was like, I actually have someone that's watching this with. So every so often, like I get a little nudge in the night and be like, yo, we're gonna watch some tapes. I'm like, okay. And then so that's how it started. I got into pro wrestling because of one Big Vito, actually, which is really funny. I was at a bar here in Staten Island and we were playing pool together. And after we played a couple of rounds, we sat down and talked for a little bit. I asked him, like, listen, this is like 2006. Like this is right after, about 2006. So it turned into like, hey, listen, like, how'd you get started? Like, how'd a guy from Staten Island get into pro wrestling? And he told me, like, listen, I'm trained by Johnny Rods, WWE Hall of Famer. Now I knew of Johnny because of my dad. He loved Johnny's other gimmick called Java Hook. So for some odd reason, like, when he had like all these tapes, and it was just weird because I was like, wait, I know that name. And then I went through my dad's stuff and I found the tapes, and Vito told me where to go. I went to Gleason's. There was another person that I somewhat knew, this good guy named Pete, and he showed me like, hey, listen, like I'm training at Johnny's. Come down sometime to the show. I was like, awesome. So I go to the show. After the show's done, I was like, wow, this is great. And I ran into Johnny, and he just goes, "Oh, Pa, you want to get in the ring? Because he's got a good side to you." I was like, "Oh, okay." So yeah, I got in the ring with Johnny, and he made me do a couple of little things. He's like, "Oh, you're athletic, you know?" Like I was like, "Yeah, I'm part military, so I have an athletic background." He goes, "Oh," so he's like, "Come down on Saturday, we talk." And I went down that Saturday, and he laid everything out. I joined, and he beat the crap out of me in front of a bunch of German photographers. In front of me, it was me, my friend Romeo, who I still talk to. We were day one buddies together, and this other kid that just disappeared after Johnny people were dog shit out of him. Sorry if I can't curse. Sorry. So yeah, that's how it happened.
What a story, though. But I mean, it's unique, though. Some people are like, oh, I was a
Yeah,
lifelong fan, but they joined at some point. They wanted to live the life in glamour. It's like you didn't have all that. I mean, you were a lifelong fan, granted, but you just you ran into something and it kind of just all fell into place. Like the stars were kind of aligned.
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's like basically my life. Like I am just like the luckiest person in the world. I have no skill sets. I'm just happy that things go my way sometimes. I'm just really uh, uh fortunate in that way. And it's always it's just the way it is in life. So I'm just really happy about these things. And this is I can't imagine my life not pro wrestling. Like every so often I'm on the road. I'll go to like Pennsylvania for a weekend. I'll go up this place for a weekend. I'll go to, like I said, I'll go to Columbia for HAWA this next week on the first. I'm sorry, 31st to the 5th, which is going to be an amazing thing. So I'm really happy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You said you came up to Mass. Where'd you wrestle in Mass? Don't mind me asking.
Holyoke. Oh yeah, no, yeah. I go up to Holyoke, Massachusetts. I go up to Springfield. I did a couple of things. I really can't remember. I was so tired. I drove back from Connecticut. I wrestled in someplace in Connecticut. I want to say it's Hartford, but and then we went to.
I'm trying to think what's out that area. They got like BCW's out that area, Blitz Creek Pro. There's a few promotions out there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Mass.
Yeah, it was a one hitter. That's all I remember. Yeah.
Mass has a lot of wrestling. I can't even capture it all. I try to, go to as many shows as I can, but when I get capped, I can only do one a night. Sometimes there's three running, on one Saturday.
Yeah.
And the distance can vary all the way. Like I said, top of Maine all the way down to Jersey is about where I've gone. Farthest I've driven probably like
This okay, those are good. That's a good drive. I mean, so I like going on drive sometimes is always a good thing because you get to meet people you never met with, wrestle with different styles, which is a beautiful thing when it comes to pro wrestling. I wrestled guys who are brawler styles, guys who are more technical styles. I've wrestled in South Carolina, North Carolina. Even the crowd, you can see the difference in everyone's not wrestling intelligence, but wrestling appreciation for certain things. Like some things people respond to more than others.
It's kind of like what the fans are looking for, looking out of the show. And some fans want more of a technical style. They want to see more wrestling. Some people want to see more showmanship. Some people want to see more character. Every crowd's kind of different. Every show's different. They all have different vibes and feelings.
Yep.
But that's something that comes with.
It's a beautiful.
Even me going to a show and many shows, I like to film stuff and I try to talk to some of the wrestlers, line up interviews, get to know people and talk to the people that I have interviewed, see them face to face. Cause a lot of them, I'll meet them on, social first, then I'll go to here and then I'll go and see them at a show. I like to, show my face or say my name. I like to support. I like to buy merch. I like to do all those things. But it's all part of kind of, for me, what wrestling is. I grew up in a time of, WWE was, in my opinion, probably one of the greatest times. You had larger than life characters, people that you can never recreate today. You're never gonna get an Andre the Giant again. You're never gonna get a King Kong Bundy again. You're never gonna get these guys again to be that big and just not in even just stature, but just in what they meant. Even like Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Macho, these people were all just, gods at the time. I grew up with that. And then, obviously wrestling has evolved over time. We've got the Attitude Era, more edgy, some great storylines, maybe not the best wrestling, but sometimes it was too. Everything's been, just different. But at some point I veered off. I veered off from what TV wrestling is and went more what indie wrestling is because I just felt that connection to it. I felt the passion to it. I could feel that, there's real people out there in the day and night that I'm watching behind them, trying to make it, giving it their all, not just for them, but also for me watching. I don't get that at a live show. I don't feel that. I just feel that I'm paying for, a very nice Hollywood production. If I go to an indie show, I feel like
that's where I always, I was gonna say, because that's exactly how I like to wrestle. Because like some people will go out there, and I'm not bashing anybody for it. Everyone has their own different styles. People like to see all different types of things. But for me, it's always been like, hey, listen, let's talk about what people came to pay for. Like I always felt like there was people out there who pay for things where people want to see wrestling. They want to feel a part of the show. They want to feel involved. They want to feel like they're not overlooked. Like everyone wants to be looked at. Everyone wants to be pointed at. Everyone wants to be brought into the story. So
yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Most of the fans, they want to be haggled a little. They like that.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, some of them will get really mad. I've seen some really funny things, where like husbands and stuff will try to charge the ring and shit. But for the most part, the average fan enjoys being haggled by the heel because it makes them feel like you said part of the show. To do that at a WWE event, you'd have to spend $5,000 to $10,000 to get that close, and it's unattainable. It's unattainable to the average person on a regular basis. Indie wrestling, not. I've done, you got shows at Beyond Wrestling right now running every Thursday night for $10, and you can stand ringside. It's like, that's attainable. That's the working man. Anybody can just almost anybody can pull out 10 and say, hey, let's go check out a show tonight. That makes it very accessible for people, and making it accessible will get more eyes and ears on it. You don't need, to make that quick money fast. It can be the slow kind of burn because you're growing a demo, you're growing fans. I mean, that you're working across many states. At some point you must have seen fans from state to state that are the same.
There's especially from like the New Jersey, New York area. I feel like there's more of a connection for people to come by local shows. Like if you're buying something mass transit, that's always good. Some people, if they're lucky enough to have cars, they will take like a car full of people and drive. Especially with SWA on Long Island. That's one of my favorite places to wrestle because I have fans from other wrestling places out there, ECPW, VPW, and they all travel within that area because it's Long Island. You're kind of, no offense to anybody in Long Island, but you're kind of stuck up there. You know what I mean? It's a one way in, one way out kind of place. So
I knew this one kid. I remember his name was actually the Long Island Scumbag. I forget the rest of his name. I met him in 2020, and I used to do a cool thing in 2020. The pandemic hit, and when the pandemic hit, I was friends already with a lot of independent guys on Facebook, and I'm seeing people sitting there. It's right before Mania weekend. People are stuck at home. People aren't making that extra income, so I started to do random picks, and I would say if you have anything on Pro Wrestling Tees, drop your links below, and I would randomly just pick one and buy it. So I have shirts to people that like I never even seen before. One of them was this Long Island Scumbag, and he was such a nice dude. He was so appreciative. He sent me the shirt, and then he sent me trading cards and all this stuff. But again, I've never been able to get out to New York itself for wrestling. I've been to New York for shows. I went to one show when XPW came back. I went to New York.
Okay, yeah. That was like early 2015, I think.
It was probably the wrong place to do an XPW show because New York, you guys are sanctioned. There's no blood. You got someone like Schlack comes out. 3 minutes later, somebody throws a chair at him. He's bleeding. The commissioner stopped the match. And everybody's looking around going, what the hell's going on here? And it's like, this is New York. Welcome.
Yep.
But, you know what that New York,
I remember matches being... Yeah, there's matches being stopped in one place. It was an intergender match. I can't remember where it was. But I remember the commission stepped in and was like, this ain't going to happen. So shut down the show.
But yeah, it's funny because then you go to Jersey and they'll let you just, beat each other with glass.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, Jersey does have a couple of rules. They are not exactly as stompant, if you would, with what's it called, like New York, but they do have a couple of rules. So they're
And I mean,
really trying to be respectful. Yeah.
well, even Mass has rules. You can't actually use the words deathmatch. You have to say
Yeah.
hardcore. You have to do this. There's certain,
Yeah. Yeah.
you can't,
Yeah.
and that's fine. But there's other states that are almost impossible to run in. You hear places like
Yeah.
Oklahoma, even. Well, you got these hard places like New Hampshire. Nobody hardly runs shows even in New Hampshire up here because they have a strict rule set. And not only that, there's a lot of extra money involved in getting licensed, getting all the wrestlers licensed, getting all that done. But for you working many states, you've licensed where you have to be, and then you're able to
Yeah.
wrestle wherever.
I'm probably heading out to Kentucky soon. I'm probably gonna head back to Texas in a while. And to Kentucky, I know you need a license. I actually had to turn down a show there because I didn't realize I needed a license. And the promoter reached out to, well, not that I realized, but the promoter reached out to me like 3 days prior. He was like, "Hey, listen, I got somebody down here that remembers you, and they want to know if like you're free for a match because like you guys trained together back in the day." I was like, "Oh, who is it?" One of my friends, Greg, and I'm like, "Oh, great, Greg, awesome, yeah." He's like, "Yeah, like he just wanted to reach out. He told me to reach out to you." I was like, "Oh yeah," it's like, and I actually straight up like, "Do I need anything?" He goes, "Yeah, you need a Kentucky license," and I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to get it in time. It was like 2 days prior, and I'm like, I can't even like commit to that. I'm sorry. He goes,
What
yeah,
what
it's
is
no problem. This happens, but
what does it actually take to get a wrestling license? Like, what do you have to like pass
it's
physicals
not
and
much.
stuff?
You got yeah. Some states, I'm not too sure. It varies from state to state, but most of them it's just you have to file some sort of paperwork. Like up here in New York, I'm sorry, in South Carolina, you have to get like a medical done. There's like boxing and then a wrestle license. Boxing and MMA is grouped together, and then there's what's it called? Wrestling, and they treat
Yeah.
wrestling as its own entity, and you don't have to go for certain things. So you don't have to go for X-rays, you don't have to go for CAT scans, blah 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 blah. But in boxing, they're very legit down there. They're just like New York
Yeah, I
wrestling.
mean, I used to do
New
amateur
York,
boxing, and even on the USA boxing, they'd make you do the most wildest things just to get a little card. It's like, okay. Um,
yeah,
but I mean, I always wonder that because you got guys that go out there with pre-existing injuries or have some even serious injuries, but it doesn't
mhm,
impact them for what they're doing. They're able to work
exactly.
around it.
Exactly. You can work around stuff. Like I've had injuries before where I always said there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. Injured is when like you have to take time off and like really kind of recuperate and assess what happened to you. And then being hurt is like, I just felt my arm weird the other day, like you got a bruise or you banged up or something like that. You got a black eye or something. And I feel like that's where there's a difference. And the commission doesn't understand that. Like, I mean,
No, and
we're
it's
here to
like
protect. Yeah. Yeah.
that's the problem when an injury happens. If it's not to the worker itself, if it's not gonna cause further damage to keep going and it's not going to stop what you have to do, you're able to do your job. And to them, it's like,
Exactly.
you're injured, you can. And it's like, well, now you just stop my booking, you stop my job.
Exactly, and it sucks. It sucks when you get out to a place, and I've had it happen to a friend of mine. We went out to a place, and they took his blood pressure, but the thing was, we were running around like building the ring and setting everything up, and he was a little bit elevated, like he was running around. He's not like a smaller gentleman; he's a big jack dude, great shape. And they were like, "Yeah, we can't let you wrestle because your blood pressure's too high." I'm like, what are you kidding me? He's like, nope, blood pressure's too high. And the doctor was like, one done. It's like, hey, let him, this guy just rest. Like he was just doing paperwork. Like he was not paperwork, he was doing rework. Like, let the guy just take a break and then come back. He goes, nope, sorry, once I get it, that's it, it's done. And I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. He goes, no, it's okay, don't worry about it. I'll just do something. So yeah. It
It
sucks
does that.
sometimes when the
Kind of
commission gets in the
sucks.
way.
So, I mean, would you say that a commission hurts or makes the business better?
Yeah, yeah. It hurts and makes it better in the same way because, like, I mean, in New York, there could be 1,005 people running a show that have absolutely no business running a show, and you have people who are just literally just stepping into pro wrestling that don't know anything. They've never been in a ring. They just don't. Oh, I'm going to be the next Paul Heyman. They saw Paul Heyman talking about myself at 15 years old, and they think that they can attach themselves to that reality, and it doesn't happen. And
Yeah.
then you have people who are great, who could be great promoters and everything, but unfortunately they're locked out because they don't have the financial backing. Like you need a bond, you need insurance, you need all this stuff that happens here in New
It's a
York, and it's a money
double-edged
making machine.
sword.
That's what it is. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the indie guys aren't coming for money. You know, they run shows for whatever to make a name for themselves, but a lot of them
yeah,
still run show to show.
yeah,
You
exactly.
know, and
Yeah,
if you're running
yeah,
show to show, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's hard to do that when you have to start paying commission fees and all of this stuff. And all of a sudden, the
exactly.
monthlies can't happen. It's bi-monthly, and then once a year, and then it's not happening at all.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
but it also,
exactly.
like
It's a
you
slow
said,
progression, and it's yeah, because sometimes it sucks because you're already like what, like technically on paper, you're like 4 or 5 grand in a hole before you start paying people. You know what I mean? It's like, well, why am I even
yeah.
doing this? And that's what a lot of people end up doing. And that's why a lot of people don't run in New York because they don't have that experience of like, how do I get a license? What do I do to get a license? How do I maintain it? How do I maintain a bond? How am I going to make money? I have to bring in a name now. I have to bring in all this other stuff to just make
And that,
it.
yeah, and I mean, people forget you also need a ring. The ring's on cheap.
Yeah,
Whether you're
yeah,
buying,
yeah.
renting, you got to get it there. You got to take it apart. Then you got to pay the
Yep.
talent. And again, like you said, you know, that's the one thing the commission is good for. It's kind of keeping who should be wrestling, and people from not being ready to not be out there, because that's when people start getting hurt, and that's when people, you know, and I hate to say it, but you know, one incident, it doesn't matter where it is. If it's on the indie scene, all of a sudden it reflects the whole scene.
Exactly. And there's also the fact that like when people get hurt, people don't realize like this how should I say this the right way? The commission is more concerned about, I feel like, taking money from people, and I don't get this. What are they gonna do? I know a lot of them, they're good people, but as a whole, as an entity, not as the people who run it, their job is to basically get paid because they treat it like mixed martial arts, they treat it like boxing, and they just basically charge you out your ass for things that shouldn't be charged. We're not
Well,
a
yeah,
combat sport. Yeah, but the whole thing is also with the commission. If they really cared about safety and if they cared about people doing the right thing and people not getting hurt, their bylaws and their business model is, they would have guys licensed.
but I mean,
Oh, like,
don't you think the independent wrestling community, I mean, with all its good promotion it has, don't you think it could be strong enough to almost commission itself and make a
well, the
governing
commission
rule?
itself would have. Well, to make a governing rule, you would have to rule out the commission as a what's it called, archaic and almost what's wrong, or not archaic, archaic and useless entity that just basically stops things from happening. Like you have to prove them to be incorrect in their findings. So that's like saying, hey, listen, we're more. You basically have to say we're more Broadway than combat sport,
So
and that's the
you gotta
problem.
turn into a WWE. You gotta be the wrestling entertainment, the sports
Exactly,
entertainment
exactly.
to get under
And
all
they
that.
come in and well, it's not even getting that. It's the fact that WWE does have to pay the commission when they come down here. They do have license bonds and everything, and basically every state that they have someone on payroll. I'm pretty sure that keeps up with just those facts alone. So when people have to sit there and be commissioned and have all proper paperwork ready to go, like they will shut down Vince. Well, I'm sorry, Triple H. They'll shut down Triple H if he tries coming here without paperwork correct. And the thing is, it's a money making thing for the city. That's what it is.
But you never hear in WWE, and like they've run in New York multiple times. You never heard of like somebody bleeding and the commission stopping them.
Well, the reason why is because I feel like they have a better hold on things because they can be like, hey, listen, if something happens, we have. I mean, in New York State, you also need the ambulance, you need the doctor and everything. But I
Yeah,
feel like they have a
the
more
whole thing.
intricate, professional. Yeah. I feel like they have a more intricate system for that to be taken care of when something bad does happen. And I think in New York, I can't remember anybody really, really believing during the time frame of the commission having a stronghold on everything. People don't also remember is like back in the day, they used to mess around with ECW all the time. And what
Yeah,
happened? ECW made it into a storyline. Yeah, they were like, who was it? Cyrus the Virus, aka what's his name in AEW right now. He would come out and be like this, representing the New York State Athletic Commission, and it was a whole big thing. So, Don Cornelius, sorry, I couldn't remember his name for a second.
so a lot of it's kind of
Yeah,
changed
so
over the some things have kind
yeah,
of changed over the years, and some of it's kind of digging back and forth. But overall, though, like I said, that area is thriving. I've talked to
Yeah,
a few people,
it's
like I
on
said,
the rise.
there. You have, a bunch
Yeah,
of great schools out in that area. I mean, some of the greatest stars have come out from that area. I mean, I'm a fan of a lot of people
yep.
from Creative Pro that's around that area, I
Creator
believe.
Pro is awesome. Yeah,
You
yep. Creator
know,
Pro is in Jersey. They were just on out here on Fox News. They did a whole entire report series on them on Fox 5 News out here. Mike Donovan, Pat Buck were on television talking about their school. They were messing around with the reporter. It was really good stuff to see, you know?
yeah, and I mean, a lot of those guys are who make it on TV today, and that's what I like. I like to see the progression. I like to see the people that are, when maybe when you started, the progression wasn't as fast, right? People would come on the scene. They either did good or bad. They work. They work. Now today, you get on the scene, you start to work, you start to follow the right guidance. Within a year, you can land to the bigger promotion. You can get up there
Yep, yep, yep.
through
And I think there's a
networking.
lot of great promotions out here in New York. Yeah, through network too. Yeah, there's like places where I mean, like you said before, schools are a great place to train. Out here in New York, are I would say the one I have always biased is one I went there and I learned so much about not just how to throw a headlock and how to protect yourself, but like how to work in the business was the world of unpredictable wrestling with Johnny Rod, the whole WWE Hall of Famer. You can't get in the ring with anybody else who has that prestige as he does.
No,
Then you
no.
have
Once you
places
start
like
there, it's hard to get
W.
anywhere else. It's hard to even look anywhere else. It's
Yeah,
like,
then you have yeah, yeah, and then you have other great places like you have WWX up in the Bronx. You have Hog out in Queens. You have there's a couple other places that are around NYWC out on Long Island. There's so many places you can go. So I
and
feel like when you do
GCW
stuff
still
like that,
does some shows out there, right? GCW every once in a while.
yeah, GCW pops up every once in a great moon. They're really great guys. The guys
And I
who run that.
actually like when they do their New York shows because they actually showcase their wrestling talent, which is great. They have a lot of great wrestling.
Mhm,
Not just
mhm.
the hardcore and the death matches. But yeah, I mean, so right now you're pretty active. You got a lot of, you get you working like
Yeah,
weekly, monthly. How many shows you usually
yeah,
pulling?
I'm working. Well, because of my shoot job, I actually do have limited weekends because I can take off the weekends basically, but I try not to use that factor with my coworkers. So my job gives me the availability of flexible time. So I can't really knock the the fact that I'm not able to wrestle every other weekend. I could wrestle in a lot of different places, but unfortunately, my I don't abuse my good luck that I have in my job. So I'll wrestle like I'll wrestle like twice, three times a month. Really, that's what I'm doing. Like I'm wrestling this weekend in prime time wrestling. I'm wrestling in HAWA next week for a whole week. And then I come back, Queens Elks Lodge, WWX, CCW. I'm going to be down in the Queens Elks Lodge, world famous old ECW place. I'm probably going down to Florida in October.
Awesome.
I have one pro wrestling, one division pro. What's it called? In August 24th at the Queens Elks Lodge. Um, I have so many other things that are coming up. It's like
You're busy. I mean,
wish
you're active. You're active. You're
yeah,
not just.
yeah, yeah.
Now let me ask you this though, because you mentioned it almost right off the bat. You said you have a studio that's being worked on. What do you use for the studio? What's the studio for?
It's for my podcast, the Nerd Bitch podcast. Great little thing I have. I started it back in January. It's basically I listen to a lot of podcasts, and the thing was that like I noticed a lot of podcasts were again I'm not knocking anybody; they do it way more better than I do. But I noticed some things were missing, and I felt like people were talking in script versus talking naturally. So I decided to get a bunch of my people that I know from different aspects. Like all my friends have, we were all nerds of something, even just yeah, everybody. So
Yeah.
I try and bring out the thing that they mostly talk about, and I'll bring up different topics. Like one time we did like just one for funs and giggles. We did a nerdy dating game where we hooked up by surprise my co-host with three bachelorettes, and he had to pick one and go on a date with them. We did a couple game shows. We're gonna do one in the future too. We're probably gonna do. I want to do the nerdy family feud. That's one thing I really want to do. Last week not last week. I do it every 2 weeks. We release on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. We're on YouTube. Everything is just Nerdbed. The Nerdbed Podcast. Put in the Nerdbed Podcast, and it'll come right up. We do everything. So we
That's
have
fun.
Yeah, we have it on YouTube. We have a Twitter. We have what Twitter's? I mean, X, whatever. I'm always going to call it Twitter.
Well,
It's
I
never going to
still
be X
call
to
it
me.
Twitter too.
Yeah, we're on Instagram, TikTok. I use everything for a different aspect. On TikTok, I kind of shoot like my own little funny little nerdy little videos, and I edited them together. We put up our clips from the YouTube show. The YouTube show runs complete through with all of our sponsors on it. We have like our nice little paid sponsors that help take care of the show, which is really awesome.
Those are
And
always helpful.
yeah, those are always helpful. So I'm lucky with that. We primarily use like pro wrestling shows as our sponsors. That's who usually contacts us. We get a good turnaround, like SWA. I mean, there's one of my home places, but hands down, like the marketing that we get from that is just awesome.
I find it a complete circle because I end up sponsoring the wrestling shows to get my podcast out there, and then once in a while they'll come back and hit me back, or somebody will hit me back.
Nice.
Like Kill City Cup was came out for a while. It was a movie that an indie wrestler put out, and had people like Brian Cage and shit in it.
Oh yeah.
And he wanted some press on, so he sponsored me for a month, and I posted all this the trailer, and I did all the stuff and talked about it, and it's a nice turnaround. But I believe the sponsorships is the best marketing that anybody can do, regardless, because you're gonna hit your demo right on the head.
And if anybody's looking to be a sponsor of the show, let me know. I put you into the show in the middle of it. So yeah, you get a full commercial ad, whatever you want. If you want me to talk it up, I talk it up on the show with a little graphic, whatever you need. Yeah. So I'm lucky enough to have all that stuff happen. But yeah, the show is really going well. It's a slow growth. I'm not trying to make a million followers or anything. And I'm doing it just for fun. I get my ideas out there. Like tonight, we're all going to go see Deadpool. So on the podcast, like last time we did it, last 2 weeks, we just released the audio, and then the week after we released the video, and then we shoot new audio, and then we release the audio. I release it the same night, and then next week it just keeps repeating. So every week you get new content. With us right now, 2 weeks ago we shot an episode and we talked about villains, and not just like video game or music villains. We talked about like any type of villain that people kind of remember, like who's somebody that stuck out to you. And if you go back and watch our YouTube, it's a great episode. It's one of our
I have to
really
check
great
that
ones.
out. I too like, I like different podcasts, but I find that a lot of them are scripted too in that aspect. A lot of it's not natural flow. People started talk like if they were talking for radio, talking for press. It's like, I don't really need that. I've never scripted a show. It's always, I just, I have people on. I started in 2021, right around the pandemic, in the middle of it. I wanted eyes and ears on the indie scene, the shows I was going to, the local shows. Mm-hmm. So I started to talk about that. I started to invite guests on, local people. And it just, as I kept doing it, it blew up. People started following. I got, sub numbers were going up. I ended up, right now I'm sitting around 80,600 subs.
Nice.
My kid keeps pushing me, though. He's like, you need to get...
Also, I was going to say, like, if anybody of those people popping right now, yeah, just follow me too. That'd be awesome. Nerd Podcast.
But no, yeah. My kid keeps pushing me, though. He says I'm not going to be nothing until I hit a silver plaque on YouTube. Then I'll become somebody.
That's good.
But he's trying to compare me to Mr. Beast. I'm like, if you give me $2 million, I'll get the subs.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like, but the worst person you would ever want to see with $2 million would be me, because I would be doing the most outlandish things in the world. True story. Right? Me and my friends, I forgot where we were. We were in AC one time, and we made a bet, right? And the bet was basically like, it was something stupid. It was something trivial. So I won the bet, and my friend goes, "All right, what do we have to do since I lost?" I was like, "You have to, every woman that you talk to tonight, like we're at a bar, this was my single days before I got married. I was like, yeah, you got to, every time you talk to a girl, you have to throw in, oh, by the way, congratulations." So all these girls were like, "Excuse me?" I was like, "No, I mean," and like we knew he'd be able to juggle it. Like he was like, "Oh no, congratulations, because you get to meet me." And he was like, "I can't say," because automatically when you hear that phrase, you think someone's congratulating you on your pregnancy. That was the whole fun part of that.
I thought about doing wild shit like that kid that went out there and was asking the questions. He happened to get lucky. And he got that huck to a girl. That shit went wild for him.
Oh my god! You know that guy's actually trying to sue her now.
Funny to do.
He's actually trying to sue her now. You hear about this? He's saying that like it's copyright infringement on his show.
That's hilarious. But she put all the merch out.
Yeah, I know. It's like, dude, the first thing you should have done is put your thing underneath their freaking face. That's if you're doing these random interviews, you're gonna get some crazy answers. One of them was gonna stick, and this girl's getting like a reality show now or something.
It's wild, but that's all it takes is one phrase. And that can
Yep.
be the same in the wrestling world. Sometimes these wrestlers will say something and it'll just stick and glow, and the next minute, this T-shirt's made and it just goes. But I
Yep.
mean, I love it, and I don't do it for the subs. I don't do it for all that. It happened to be like a bonus. It happened to be something that came along with the ride. I did it because it's fun. I enjoy talking to wrestlers. I enjoy talking to people like you. I enjoy talking to the people that do both wrestling and podcasting. I enjoy talking to reps. Anybody in the business, I enjoy talking to them. I don't. Really
I try
do
not to make my show. I try not to make my show exclusively for pro wrestling because I could literally run an entire wrestling podcast off of that alone. So I'm like, don't talk about wrestling so much. Don't talk about wrestling. And my co-hosts were both big wrestling fans, so it's like, I could talk about people that I could talk about anything under the moon with pro wrestling, but at the same time, it's like I have to keep on track because I don't want to just create a wrestling podcast.
Oh, that's what I did. And that's why I did the VSW podcast on my, I have my YouTube channel, and then I met a bunch of other podcasts on the Vic Musket podcast network. There was another guy, Vic. He was doing something very similar to me with Killing the Business Worldwide, interviewing people and stuff. So we decided to team up and join, and he had me join his network. And me, I only did YouTube. I never really got into the Spotify. I didn't have time to take and upload and do all this stuff. Having a kid, my kid was like 3 at the time. I was just very busy. So I just did YouTube. He has a very good following on all the other social platforms. So he's like, I'll take your audio. I'll push your audio. I'm like, cool. And in the meantime, I've met other podcasters through this. So I've been able to we do a horror show now every Thursday night. So tonight at 8, we'll do a horror show and we'll pick a topic. So there's like 4 or 5 of us there. And then there's another show we do where I talk about cannabis and its medical benefits. And there's another show that I might then, talk to wrestling results. So I try to vary it because otherwise everything will be the same. I'll just keep bringing it back to pro wrestling because that's what's relatable.
Exactly.
I was called a nerd as a kid because I liked pro wrestling. Nothing else, just because of the pro wrestling. Today, nerds are in fashion. Whatever were made fun of as kids is all now retro. And if you have those things still, they're worth big money.
Yeah. And the thing is, also, when I was a kid, I was definitely, I was actually really short. I was born a couple months premature, and I was born, really short. The doctors knew I was going to get over, I was literally 4'11" until I was, 14 years old. And then I just shot up to, 5'11". And the doctors were like, what the fuck? I actually fractured my elbow. There's just bones and everything that fuse together when you get to a certain size. That's it, you're done growing. They looked at my hands and they were like, oh, I don't know if you can see this, but my hands are actually somewhat off.
Wow.
You're lucky. The way I grew. Yeah. So, yeah.
You're lucky though, because I'm a preemie too. I was a couple months early and I stopped at 5'8". I didn't get that high up there. But that's kind of wild.
I'm I don't know what happened. I could have. Yeah, once it was literally over the course of one summer, I grew 1 feet. My mom was freaked out. For a while, my neck actually had a problem, and I was walking around like this for 3 weeks. And my mom
just because everything grew at a different rate. Everything kind of grew.
Yeah, so weird. Yeah,
but hey, it worked out for you in your favor.
Yep.
It did.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start getting out of here because I got to do the podcast.
I understand. I understand that very, very well. Yeah. I do thank you though for taking the time to come on. I am going to give a listen to some of these episodes, and feel free to send me them too, because sometimes
absolutely.
Sometimes I don't get them. I don't get notifications. So
same thing happens to me.
Shoot me an episode. Yeah. I don't mind friends of guests shooting me direct episodes into my emails and DMs. I don't mind that.
Yeah.
But
I'll definitely send it to you.
And if you ever looking for guests on yours or someone to come on, I'm always welcome to come in and talk whatever you're talking, I like doing it. I like to have fun.
Let me know whenever you're in the area. We'll definitely schedule something. Like I said, I shoot every 2 weeks, so I can plan it out then. I can make the episodes whenever the hell I want, really. It's just at my own discretion. But I have the platform running. I feel a week between each thing is week for the audio, week for the video. So, yeah. So follow me on everything.
And thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for watching at home. And as always, support indie wrestling. Versace Stoner.
And on that note, wait. My social. Yeah, social. So yeah.
I thought you gave those when you gave them where your schedule was. Then I remembered no.
Follow me on Twitter, Stephen Person IP. Follow me on Instagram, Quinstagram789. Follow me on TikTok, Nerd Badge Podcast. Follow me everything Nerd Badge Podcast. Mr. Stephen Person on TikTok. I'm on basically everything. If you put in Stephen Person, I'll pop up on YouTube, Nerd Badge Podcast.
And we're gonna add all these links into the description too. I like to do that. I like to just let people know where they can actually find who I'm talking to. But yeah.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Honestly, though, I really do appreciate it. And again, thank you again, everybody. Have a good night.
Hi, everybody.
Talk to you out.